Good morning, my friends. It's a rainy day all day, and so it's taken me a little longer to get it going this morning and get ready and up in my stretches. I'm very stiff. But I thought while I'm just killing time stretching out, I would update you with, I thought, some really good information. I had a urologist appointment yesterday because I have, moved to Georgia, and that's all new doctors and blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. So I had a urology appointment with a new urologist, and I was dreading it really, just because I don't like having to get new doctors once you finally get people that know you and understand your situation. But he was phenomenal. He came in and he had a piece of paper, and he sat down and he said, "I have a bunch of questions I'm going to ask you." I'm like, okay. And he started asking, of course, with me having a spinal cord injury, he wanted to know all the details. And I don't even mean about my story. I mean, like, well, do you struggle with UTIs? Well, yes. How often do you have those? So I told him that. What do you do when you get those? How do you know you have one? He said. And I told him my symptoms. Is that the only way you know you have one? Okay. How do you know when your bladder is full? What do you need to do? I mean, so many questions that I've never had a urologist ask me. Just even that much information to know me personally. Like, how does my body work? Normally they just, doctors lump you into this medical textbook a lot of times. And if you don't match that, sometimes you act like you have to be the doctor and tell them. And that just, anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. So the very fact that he was already asking so many questions, I mean, I literally just sat and answered questions about me. And it felt like I had to educate him about me. He came in hungry to learn. And that was so new, honestly, for any of my doctors almost. So that was refreshing. But then he asked me about constipation. Well, that is also the bane of I think, a spinal cord injury, because it's just, it can really control your life in a lot of ways. It does, I think. And so I told him, of course, that could be a problem. Well, what do you do for that? And so I told him, the many enemies every other day, and I use Smooth Move tea if I can tell things still aren't happening, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he said, all right, I'm going to be back in just a second. So he goes out, and he comes back in with a brown bag and paperwork, and he said, I deal with constipation with most of my urological clients or customers or patients or whatever, more than I do almost anything else. And that kind of shocked me, because I feel like that would be a gastroenterologist. And he said, and it is because the bowels and your bladder health and function are so tied in together. And if constipation is a problem, you are going to have problems with UTIs, with retention or leakage or incontinence. It's all tied in very closely. So he said, the first thing we're going to do is we are absolutely going to solve that and get that under control. And so he came in with this little routine and what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to start charting. I see him in 4 to 6 weeks, and he wants me to take 2 full days and chart every single thing I drink. And then I have to measure how many cc's of output there is. And for 2 days, he wants all that charted and brought back to him. And then he's going to have me do and I'm just going to tell you, because if you're watching and you have these same issues and this guy's onto something that I've never heard from urologists, then it can help all of us. But he's going to start me with drinking a bottle of magnesium citrate, because he said we want to start making sure you're totally clean. So be home for 24 hours near your toilet, and we're going to clean you out and start with a clean slate entirely. And then he said, from there, we start on a Miralax routine. And here's what we start with. And then you're getting to where the goal is 1 soft bowel movement a day. And he said, if you start having more than that, then you start backing off how much you put in. He said, use the powder, not the caplets. And, you can do a whole cap full, and then you can take it down to a half cap full. But eventually, once we find my Miralax dosage for one soft bowel movement a day, then I will stay on that the rest of my life. And I've had people talk about, yeah, we use Miralax, but it's almost kind of like I would use Smooth Move Tea, throw it in when you need it. But he said, we will get this under control and we will get it solved. And that will help a lot with UTIs. It will help a lot with a lot of the other just bladder junk that you deal with. So who knows? I'm anxious to see how it goes. He said it could take days to regulate to that. It could take weeks. It could even take months, but it will happen and we will get that. And then he talked to me also about, I used the Crede method to empty and void my bladder. And honestly, that was totally by accident because I was in a very rural area whenever my spinal cord got injured. And so I fell through a lot of medical cracks. And the whole story is quite horrific now that I look back on it, as educated as I am. It just had to be God that was looking out for me. But I had not urinated in over 36 hours and didn't even think about it, honestly, because I had no sensation and didn't know. I just wasn't even thinking about it. That was new, to not feel like you had to go pee. And someone said to me, when was the last time you went to the bathroom? And I was like, oh, I don't know. So medically that's ridiculous. But anyway, so I just went and got help getting on a commode and just kept punching and mashing and anything I could do to try to get my bladder to open or work. And suddenly it triggered and pee started flowing. I couldn't stop it and I can't start it. And that is sort of how by default I got myself to urinate. I didn't know till later when I actually did get into a urologist that is actually called the Crede method. And it's a method they used to teach more with the invention of catheters and things like that. They kind of got away from that, but it works for me. I have a reflexive bladder, and so it will trigger. And I don't have to punch myself anymore. I'm just saying that, but there is a ritual to it, and it's something else. But anyway, he would know about all that. But he talked to me about doing that is fine, but when you have a bladder, when it fills up in volume, that your brain will trigger that it's supposed to stretch. And that's good. It stretches and creates more space for that. And then you start feeling uncomfortable and you need to go release it. But when you have nerves that aren't triggering and getting those signals to there, that it will fill up, and it's great. I can go do that, but there's something called bladder pressure. And I've read about that, but I guess I really didn't understand it because no urologist have ever talked to me about it. But that bladder pressure can increase because if the nerves are not helping expand that. And so anyway, he's going to run. He did blood work yesterday. I got an ultrasound tomorrow. They're just going to check. I've had those, a lot of times before. And then they're going to, of course, we're going to get urodynamics, and he wants to measure that pressure. He said, if that pressure stays continual over time, it will give me kidney disease. Well, don't want that, do we? So he's on to that. I guess if a doctor has checked for it, they've never communicated that to me. So all in all, I found that to be a really educational and comforting appointment with a new doctor that I feel like I don't know, I just feel like for so many years I've had to be on the defense to take care of my own health because I fell through so many medical cracks. I felt very betrayed by the medical world, and I became a crusader for my own health, which is good. I mean, I would say be an advocate for yourself. But it was just a really good feeling to feel like I can relax a little bit because this doctor's on it. And that's really a very stressless feeling. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be on top of it and I'll do what he says, but, and follow his lead. But anyway, I hope that might help somebody if you may be in the same situations, at least to ask questions to your urologist and, sorry, but hold them to the gun if they're not asking these questions for you, because we've got to take care of ourselves. All right. Have a great day.